Happy Friday. I always, whenever I see these wine glasses, I think about the trip I took to Mexico. See, there's these cool with this kind of knobby kind of, I don't know if you can see it in the video. About a year after Dennis died, I went to a women's surfing camp in Mexico. And their tagline is that they make girls out of women. So it was a lot of fun. I had never been surfing before. I grew up boogie boarding on the Oregon coast. So, with like a short, not a big surfboard, but a short foam board, and you go maybe waist deep and you catch the waves like surfing, except you just lie down on it. You don't stand up boogie boarding. So I thought surfing sounded like fun. Sounded like, people always talk about self-care. Like this really sounded like a good self-care thing to do. I'm happy to say that I got up on the first time, very first wave. I got up, I rode all the way into the beach. It was awesome. And then that was really, I think, the only good ride that I had the whole rest of the week. I mean, I had some other, I got up some other times, but like a really good, ride. But I got one, so that was something. No, it was a lot of fun. And I'd encourage you to check it out if you're interested in that. It's called Las Olas, surfing camp, surfing something. Anyway, that is not why I'm here. I'm here because it's the 5th day of Christmas, or at least in my world it is, with my 12 Days of Christmas song. And oops, I just realized I had my computer in the way there. So I am doing a fun little Christmas song. You may have caught this live stream some of the last few nights where I've been talking about gift ideas, gift suggestions, creative ideas for gifts for grieving people. Not just for grieving people, I make great gifts for other people too, but because that's my focus, that's kind of what I'm sticking to for this. I've got links to everything down below in the description. There should be links to all the shopping. I think it's 12 Days of Christmas shopping links for each of the things I mentioned. Anyway, my book, Future Widow, signed hard copies are available now at futurewidowbook.com. And I have a number of other suggestions as well. So that's why I'm singing the song. Today's day 5. So if you're familiar with the 12 Days of Christmas, you might know that it's 5 golden rings. Of course, this is a parody, so I have different words. But that always reminds me, I don't know if you saw the John Denver and the Muppets 1979 Christmas special. It's called An Evening Together, I think. A Christmas Together. John Denver and the Muppets. If you go on YouTube, I just found this the other day. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch it sometime in the next week or so. John Denver was super popular in 1979, and he appeared with the Muppets in a Christmas special, and we have the CD here that we play constantly and have for years, decades actually, probably. Favorite Christmas album around here, that and the Beach Boys Christmas album. And what was my point? Oh, in the Muppets song, the different Muppets chime in on the different days of Christmas, and so Miss Piggy does the 5 golden rings. She's number 5. And it's kind of fun because when it gets to later in the song, she adds in a ba-dum bump bump, which I think isn't probably in the original song. But I always hear in my mind Miss Piggy saying ba-dum bump bump, 5 golden rings, ba-dum bump bump, 4 calling birds, etc. So maybe we'll throw that in here into the song. All right. So I did practice some more. Try to remember the words. When you have the 12 Days of Christmas song, the regular words in your head for years, and then you try to throw in other words. So I have to think really hard about remembering. And remembering the chord changes and all those fun things. I hope you're having a good time. Sing along with me wherever you are. And have a listen because I have some creative gift ideas to recommend, and I thought it would be fun to do it in the form of a song. So, here we go. Hopefully I won't mess up this time. All right. First day. On the first day of Christmas, my good friend sent to me a signed copy of Future Widow. Oh, I already messed up. On the second day of Christmas, my good friend sent to me 2 months of Audible and a signed copy of Future Widow. On the 3rd day of Christmas, my good friend sent to me 3 blue apron boxes, 2 months of Audible, and a signed copy of Future Widow. On the 4th day of Christmas, my good friend sent to me 4 Starbucks cards, 3 blue apron boxes, 2 months of Audible, and a signed copy of Future Widow. All right, here comes the tricky part. On the 5th day of Christmas, my good friend sent to me 5 Grief Memoirs. Little high notes there. 4 Starbucks cards, 3 blue apron boxes, 2 months of Audible, and a signed copy of Future Widow, and a partridge in a pear tree. All right, so I need some more practice, but it is what it is. I only learned guitar as an adult, maybe 2013 or 14. So I'm kind of a hack, but it's a lot of fun. So I wanted to tell you guys, all right, so I'm going to put the guitar down. So today, 5 grief memoirs, or 5 grief memoirs. Probably way out of tune. I wanted to recommend a few grief memoirs because one of the things that I do on my show, the Widowed Parent Podcast, is I interview some really awesome people, and some of them are authors, and some of them are authors of memoirs. So in no particular order, I grabbed 5 books off my shelf here that I wanted to share with you guys. One of the reasons that I think people like grief memoirs, well, some people just like reading memoirs in general. It's their favorite genre. But grieving people often like to read other people's stories to feel a little bit less alone when they hear that other people have gone through something similar. Maybe it's not exactly the same. Nobody's story is exactly the same. But there's an awful lot that people have in common and can pick up from other people's experiences and how things went and how they've coped and what they've learned and things like that. So one of the books I picked out for you guys, can you see it? It's called You Cant Do It Alone by Maria Quiban Whitesell with Lauren Schneider. And so Maria's husband actually also died of glioblastoma. She lives in Los Angeles. And reading, it's always interesting reading other glioblastoma stories and what's the same and what's different. It's a really terrific story, and also woven in, so I mentioned that it's with Lauren Schneider. She's a colleague and friend of mine who works at Our House Grief Support Center in Los Angeles. And so she added, in each chapter, Maria tells her story, and then at the end of each chapter, there's a section called Grief Therapist Notebook, where Lauren adds in some information about grief, or including especially about children's grief, because Maria had a young son at the time. He's still a young son. But he's a little bit older now. And so Lauren adds in really important perspective and information for parents about grieving kids. So You Cant Do It Alone is one of my recommendations. Another one, here we go. Oh, there we go. Widowish by Melissa Gould. So this one has like 6,000 reviews or something crazy on Amazon. It's terrific. Melissa, well, she also lives in Los Angeles. Coincidence, really. I didn't just try to pick all California people or all West Coast people. But her husband died of a virus, actually, West Nile virus. And she tells her story in a memoir here. It's called Widowish because she is a widow, but she feels kind of widow-ish because she doesn't feel like what people expect they might think of when they think of the word widow, because she is young and she has a child, and she's starts dating in the book and talks about that. So this is a really great dive into Melissa Gould's journey. So Widowish. Oh, there we go. And by the way, I've interviewed each of these people, well, not the last book, but all the other ones I've interviewed on my show. So if you go over to jennylisk.com, you can hear a deep dive discussion with each of these authors, and it's really, really terrific to get to talk to them and kind of ask them some questions, as I read their stories and what kind of questions pop up. The next one, Here we go. Black Widow by Leslie Gray Streeter. The subtitle, check out the subtitle, A Sad, Funny Journey Through Grief for People Who Normally Avoid Books with Words Like Journey in the title. So you get the idea that there's some humor in here. You can see the picture of her. She lived in Florida at the time that this book takes place, and after that for a while as well, but now is in Baltimore. She writes... she's written some articles for the Post and other things, and she's very active on Twitter, so you can catch her there. Terrific story. She is Black, you might be able to tell from the picture and from the title, and her late husband was white and Jewish, so there's the cross-cultural aspects to that and their story, and they were in the process of adopting a little boy when her husband died. So read all about Leslie's story here. And also, Leslie was kind enough to come on organized a panel discussion recently for the National Alliance for Children's Grief, and she was a terrific part of that discussion, sharing the widowed parent experience. And by the way, all three of these people that I've mentioned so far, I've done giveaways with Maria for Glioblastoma Awareness Day in July, and then Leslie and Melissa and I teamed up together for International Widows Day in June. So that was a lot of fun. And then the next book here, Tembi Locke from Scratch. You see it? There we go. And she actually was kind enough to participate in a giveaway that I did just recently for National Family Caregivers Month in November. So all these authors contributed signed, personalized copies of their books, which was a lot of fun. Anyway, Tembi, you might be able to tell from the picture, she is Black, and her late husband is from Sicilian, and he was a chef. And she was an American from Texas and an actor, no less. And so there were a lot of cross-cultural issues, and his parents being unhappy about him marrying a Black actor from America. And he was, like I said, a chef. And so they met in Italy, and they... She was on a study abroad program over there, and they met, and they ended up back in California, living here, and he got sick, and she was his caregiver for 10 years. And then he died, and they had adopted a little girl in California, and Tembi and her daughter ended up going back to Sicily. Then I think it was 3 summers in a row after her husband died, and spending time with her mother-in-law in the very tiny village that her late husband had grown up in. And if this sounds familiar, you can see on here, it was a Reese's Book Club pick when it came out, and it's coming out on Netflix. I don't know when. I'm guessing sometime in 2022. So look for it. It's called From Scratch, and it's going to be where Netflix does a series, not like a 2-hour movie, but like a series with some episodes. And they have finished the filming. They've got terrific actors playing all the characters in the book. So look for From Scratch on Netflix next year. Probably next year. Don't quote me on that, but that's my guess. So that's 4 books. And then the 5th book I wanted to recommend, Option B by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. So, and this is part memoir, part grief book, I guess, for lack of a better word. So Sheryl, you might recall, her husband died when they were vacationing in Mexico, I think, of a sudden and surprise cardiac event. And he died. And then she was devastated. And her kids at the time were like 8 and 10-ish. So around the same age my kids were. And here's the really crazy thing. Actually, I wanted to read you guys. So in my book, I put a bookmark on this page here. So this is towards the beginning of the book, and I was saying that I was at the hospital and we were waiting. Dennis had gone in for surgery. And so I said we were in the hospital lobby waiting room. So I said, here we go. There wasn't much to do, but what I remember is this: sitting on my phone and scrolling through the news endlessly. Facebook executive Sheryl Sandberg's husband had just died 2 weeks earlier. It had been all over the news, and I had followed with the interest of an uninvolved observer. Poor Sheryl and her kids. How sad for them, I can't imagine. All of a sudden, it was personal. This very well could be me soon. I'd better pay attention. Even this early in the journey, I had the feeling I needed to follow Sandberg's story closely to learn from it what I could. So yeah, it was crazy, really. I mean, she was tremendously open about sharing her journey in those early days and beyond. And I remember she had put up a post 30 days after her husband died about um, kicking the elephant out of the room, trying to remove some of the awkwardness. People would run into her. They didn't know what to say, all these things. She was really open about her journey. And I was paying attention because like I said, when it first happened, it was before Dennis got sick. And I thought it was terribly sad. I didn't have any personal connection to it. And then all of a sudden, I was like, my husband had glioblastoma. And I just knew that I was going to be following, her path. So I realized I needed to start paying attention. One of the things I talk about in the book is how much I learned from some of the things that she had shared. And the reason that her book is called Option B is because she talks about sometime after her husband had died, a friend of hers was over and they were trying to talk about a plan for, I think, some event one of her kids had. And she wanted Dave, her husband, to take the kid to the event. And he was dead, obviously. And so she cried, I don't want option B. I want option A. I want Dave. And the friend said, option A isn't available, so let's just kick the shit out of option B. And so that they decided to name the book Option B. And she teamed up with Adam Grant, who is normally writes a lot of business books, but he is a psychologist. And he brings that perspective to the book here as well. So anyway, 5 grief memoirs for the 5th day of Christmas. There should be links in the description. There's a link to my storefront on bookshop.org where you can find all these books as well as a lot of other terrific books. So this, I'm not even sure how long this has been. I don't see a timer. If you're watching, leave a comment. Just say hi, whatever. Love to know if anybody's been watching and hear from you guys. Hope you're having a good Friday. Hope you have a great day tomorrow. And I will see you tomorrow night for day 6. All right. Bye.